Hi, students, it's Mrs. T. And in this short lesson, we're going to talk about a concept that is key to your understanding of what actually development and industrialism or industrialization mean. We're going to talk about development and its role in globalization, industrialization and its role in globalization and globalism. We're going to talk about that a lot over the next couple of weeks. And so I just wanted to make sure that we had this basic vocabulary concept infrastructure, even though it's a basic core vocabulary concept that you need to know. Look how long the definition is that I wrote just off the top of my head here as I was typing out this little brief page behind me on the screen. So please look this word up, infrastructure, in your geography textbook. You can certainly look it up in a general dictionary also to kind of become familiar with the way other people word the definition. Just because your definition or the textbook author's definition is different than my definition, as long as it says the same thing, then we're good. So anyway, make sure that if you use a basic thing such as a general dictionary that's not cultural geography specific, make sure that you criticize the definitions that you look up. And this goes for any vocabulary word that you might look up. Make sure that you criticize those definitions pretty analytically, just to make sure that they say the same thing. Okay. I tell my sociology students to do that all the time. You cannot look up the word poverty, for instance, in a general dictionary and get a good definition that a sociologist uses to define poverty. And if you haven't taken sociology yet, please take me. It's enlightening when we talk about the difference between the socioeconomic classes in the United States in particular. But in general, in this conversation about infrastructure, I wanted to just talk to you about what it is, because infrastructure is not just roads and bridges and airports and things like that, the hard things that you can put your feet on and walk on. But it involves a lot more. I mean, certainly roads and bridges and airports and bus stops and bus stations and all those kinds of things certainly are part of infrastructure. But it's a common mistake to just think about those physical structures in our environment as part of the infrastructure and not think about the cyber structures that are part of our environment also. For instance, you do have a physical thing called a smartphone, but probably on that smartphone, do you have a banking app? And in your banking app, can you go in there and see how much money you paid to your credit card the last time, or when somebody's bill came out, or all these different kinds of things? You can go in and see where your money is going digitally. Did you get paid yet? And how much is the minimum balance due? And can I change the due date on my Discover card? And these kinds of things that you do digitally in the confines of like a secure banking app system, or even the communication that you do when you're playing a role-playing video game, or how many of you go into the metaverse, or if you watched some of the videos on Minecraft or even Fortnite from the Mr. Help analysis that you did for Project One, those kinds of concepts that make something like Minecraft enjoyable is because you are building infrastructure in this Minecraft world that you're familiar with, you know, in daily life. You and I are familiar with it because we are from something called a first world country. And so when you please look at this definition of infrastructure on the screen behind me, make sure you copy it and or write your own version of it. Look at the textbook for a good solid definition of it in the textbook. But infrastructure is really where what we're talking about when we talk about development, which is one of the major themes that we're going to focus on the next couple of weeks with industrialization and with the subsistence strategies that we will define. I think next week it is. But when we talk about migration and push and pull factors that we've been discussing together in class, a lot of times the level of development or the amount of infrastructure that is already in place and working and secure, and the safety, like as far as law and order goes, or the safety of the water system or the sewage system, you know, is there safe drinking water? Most of us in the United States, we are Can I say the word spoiled? I guess I want to say the word spoiled. We're a little bit spoiled just about our drinking water. Like there's water fountains everywhere, or these fountains where you can put your, reusable mug underneath and have water come in. Most of us will buy water instead of drink out of like the kitchen faucet or something, let alone a garden hose, at the gas station or something. But usually those kinds of water sources, when they're hooked up to a municipal water supply, usually in the United States, you can take for granted that it's safe for you to drink, your animals to drink, to bathe in, to wash clothes in, and all that kind of stuff, because we have an infrastructure in place that takes care of sanitation. We have an infrastructure in place that filters these things and has secure networks around them so that they can be delivered to you safely and you can rely on them. Most of us take it for granted that we walk into a room and flip a light switch on, and the lights come on, or a heater comes on in the middle of the night to keep us warm and toasty. Most of us take it for granted that these things are available. But that kind of infrastructure is what we're talking about when we say developed, okay? Because there aren't paved roads everywhere. There are not airports that take people to and from every single place. There are not 7-Elevens where you can gas up your car. There's not an Edwards Food Giant where you can go and get bread. There is not a grocery store in general where you can go and have a supply of food. There is not a governmental system that gives people a woman, infant, and children card, a WIC card, where you can go in and get resources, food resources for your household. These things are not available everywhere. And this is one of the things that is a major push factor when you're having people choose to leave their country and pick another place in the world to go, whether it's by step, you go here first and then gather yourself and move on to the next place. But infrastructure is vitally important in understanding this concept. Understanding infrastructure is vitally important in understanding the concept of development and also industrialization. So if you've had me for sociology before, you've heard me tell you that in sociology class, we like to look at a levels of income approach. This is a particular title, okay, of a so to speak, development theory. A levels of income approach to global stratification is what we talk about in sociology class. And in that levels of income approach, we look at the people in a place and what is the average income for a year, the average annual income that the people in that country tend to have access to. It's an average. And so if you group the different countries based on a dollar range of averages, you can find high income nations, middle income nations. There's two different distinctions of those, and then low income nations. And so there's four distinctions that we look at closely in sociology class. It talks about the style of life that people have. In cultural geography, we are still focused on the levels of development way of organizing countries around the world. And we're also interested in the level of industrialization. How many goods are you producing? What is your exchange rate, your import and export rate? And do you have raw materials in your country that can be transformed into materials that others want to export and to bring into their population? Do you have desirable things, and can you take that iron ore or gold or lithium or all these other rare earth minerals? Can you take these things and turn them into a cell phone battery, for instance, or componentry circuits for cars, for car manufacturers and other places? And so development is about the degree of infrastructure that's just available for your daily life, and industrialization is the level of manufacturing, imports and exports that is done within the political borders of your country. And so if you've heard first world, second world, and third world nations as a distinction, it's not really a very popular way in academia, anyways, in politics, to organize our thinking about different nations in comparison to each other. But the first world, second world, third world, these are referring to the degree of industrialization. Are you fully industrialized? Perhaps you have a post-industrial economy like the United States. We will revisit that a lot later. A post-industrial economy that's like a service sector. It's not industry where you're making stuff. It is, you're providing Wi-Fi or something. You provide customer customer service, or you are at a mailing center, you do logistics for Amazon, something like this. You're not actually making something, you are just organizing something and working to provide services to people in your area. And so these concepts are important to keep track of and be aware of, and kind of in your notes, organize them in these two different classifications that are kind of intertwined with each other. Like I said, a lot of times I scroll down, and I see that I wrote here the push and pull factors for making decisions on whether to stay or whether to go often come from levels of development or the understanding of how your lifestyle is going to be different if you're able to make your way to a first world nation, to use those distinctions. And also, I think later on in another video, I'm going to ask you the question or present you with some information, maybe it's next week, about how development in some people's eyes, particularly the United Nations Habitat Program, for instance, which looks at living conditions for people, and the Human Development Index worldwide, they say that development is a solution for poverty. Like, you can't be poor if you have development around you, if you are in a developed or industrialized place. And so what they're talking about is this infrastructure. If you have this infrastructure in place with transportation systems and a disease cure system and research and development, sanitation here means, is there a good sewer that takes waste far away from where people are living and disposes of it in a way that is not going to make you sick, this kind of stuff. Utilities like electricity, like natural gas, like running water, clean water, security, like making sure that those utilities are protected, or making sure that there's law and order on the streets so you don't have to worry about losing your life or having some kind of violence perpetrated against you. These kinds of things are key components of infrastructure that are seen as a marker of development. The degree that the infrastructure is maintained, is upgraded, and secure, all those things, that degree will indicate your level of development. And so, yeah, major push and pull factor. Some people say development is the solution for poverty. I want you to consider that deeply. You might want to write a reaction paper about that topic this week. You certainly can just, search something like that on YouTube, development a cure for poverty or something like that, and probably find some contributing outside sources that you could look at and examine and consider for your reaction paper this week if you're going to write one. I hope you are. Okay, so please make sure that you rewind this video. If that's the right word for a digital video, rewinding is kind of old school. But anyway, please make sure that you go back to some key points in this video and slow me down maybe so you can write some of the notes that you need to for the quiz that's coming this week, and also to use this information on your coming projects that are going to be due in the next week. Or two. Project 2 is going to probably open maybe this week or next. So be on the lookout for that. Okay, text me with questions. Bye.